Hello, today I'd like to talk about how to get powerful in Fallout 76, specifically in combat. I'll cover defensive gear in this video, so we'll be talking about armor and mods, which legendary effects are good to go for, and consumables like drugs that give you a short-term boost. We covered offensive gear in the last video. If you haven't seen it, then I've linked it in the top right corner, so it might be a good idea to watch that first. Perks will be covered in later videos to keep this one from getting too long, so subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to be notified when the next part gets released. The first thing to understand is that there's several types of defensive stats. Damage resistance protects you against physical attacks, so things like melee and bullets. This is the most common type of damage. Energy is from weapons like lasers. You'll find many robots using these against you. All armor has some damage and energy resistance. There's also several rarer types like fire, poison, and cryo. Only armor that has specific protection against those types of attacks will give any protection, and usually it's by legendary effects, so most of the time your armor will give you zero protection. Gotta watch out for these, because in the chaos of combat you might not notice just how fast your health is dropping. Radiation is more of an environmental issue, like when you're in higher radiation areas. But there's also weapons like gamma guns and radium rifles, and enemies like ghouls that also apply radiation damage to you. It's also important to understand the difference between damage resistance and damage reduction. Reduction gives you a flat percentage decrease, while resistance gives you diminishing returns as it increases. The way it works is that the incoming damage is decreased by resistance first, and then reduction is applied in a multiplicative fashion. So if you have two 50% damage reductions, you'll take 25% of the damage after resistance, because it's half of half. You can look up the mathematics, but the rule of thumb is that after 300 damage resistance, you get better returns by focusing on damage reduction. Your armor is the first thing to look at, but this is where your style comes into it. Are you going to wear power armor or not? A full set of power armor gives you an inherent 42% damage reduction, on top of whatever damage resistance the armor pieces have. You also get an inherent 90% reduction to radiation. So even if you wear the weakest power armor, it'll make you pretty tanky compared to normal armor. At the beginning it's a good idea to go for power armor, even if your long-term plan is to use normal armor, until you get the chance to collect a good set of your final armor. You can find power armor frames scattered all around the map, often with some armor parts already in them. Some questlines will also reward you with complete sets, but generally the most effective way to get pieces are events like Eviction Notice. Some sets give you unique bonuses. The Excavator's power armor is a good beginner set to go for, and you can get it pretty easily after level 25. As a bonus, the Excavator's set also has an inherent extra carrying capacity. You can carry 100 more weight, and even more if you get the leg mods to enhance that. Combine that with the fact that the armor itself doesn't weigh anything while you're wearing it, and you should be pretty close to the best carrying capacity possible in the entire game, and definitely the best in the early game. The Union Power Armor gives you 75 extra carrying capacity, so nearly as much as the Excavators, and 150 poison resistance, so you're effectively immune to poison. The Hellcat has another 12% ballistic reduction, but this one's applied before armor, so you're even tankier against bullets. Unfortunately, many of these unique sets require special currencies that you have to grind for. Typically it's gold, and you can get treasury notes from every event. But for instance, the Union armor requires stamps, and you'll have to grind a lot of expeditions if you didn't get this set by the scoreboard last season. For myself, I use Union power armor. I have the leg mods, so my carrying capacity is at around 450, but I'm still constantly over encumbered because I'm such a kleptomaniac. Poison means nothing to me anymore, and the only thing I really need to watch out for is fire damage. But generally the differences are pretty small while roaming around the world, so the Excavator set will be good enough. You can start the quest to get it via posters found at rail stations, or at the Garahan mining headquarters in the south of the map. If you do use power armor, one tip is to disable the power armor HUD in the options. One of the big gameplay disadvantages of the HUD is that it hides distances to objects in the compass. Once you disable it, it plays the same as if you were outside power armor, just with an extra meter for your fusion core. If you prefer to use normal armor, you can definitely do that too, but just be prepared to rely more on stealth to survive. Typically people who do this style are using bloody builds. If you remember, it refers to people who keep their health low to max the bonuses from bloody weapons. The big downside of this style is that the best armor is gated behind gold. Stats wise, the best are the boss recon armor and the Secret Service armor. These give you damage and radiation resistance that's not too much lower than power armor. Of course you don't get the 42% inherent damage reduction from power armor, so you're still squishier, but otherwise they're comparable. A bonus for using normal armor is that you can also wear under armor, and that can have its own attribute bonuses if you mod them. For example, the Secret Service under armor can be modded with the shielded lining to give you an extra plus 15 to damage, energy, and radiation resistances, plus 4 to strength and endurance, and 2 to perception. One approach is to mix normal and power armor. Normal armor, even the ones you find randomly, is good enough for just doing quests and exploring. You can also carry a power armor set and use that for daily operations and events, where every bit of protection counts. That will allow you to do well enough until you can get the special sets of normal armor. If you want to fully lean into stealth, you can use the Chinese stealth suit. You get it as part of the raid on the Gold Vault if you do the settler missions before the raid. It gives you a permanent stealth field when you're crouched, but it's not very protective, so on a stand-up fight you'll do poorly. You also miss out on legendary effects and other benefits from your armor and under armor, so generally it's something you'd pull out for specific situations. You'll also have to repair normal armor a lot more often than power armor. I'm not sure where this comes from, but I haven't had to repair any of my power armor pieces, while I've had to repair normal armor quite a few times, even though I do my heavy fighting in power armor. But to reiterate the point, normal armor is more suitable for stealthier playstyles. Armor can be modded just like weapons. Generally you've got several types of options. Most give you extra damage and energy resistance. They're not bad to go for because normal armor rarely gives you enough for both. There's some mods that specialize on reducing damage from explosions or prevent you being set on fire. These are pretty useful if you go for explosive weapons. There's a couple that give you more carrying capacity. Pocketed and Deep Pocketed give you a straight increase, while Light and Ultralight mods do that indirectly by making your armor lighter, plus a small bonus to your action point maximum. Some increase your stealth, or make you better at melee combat. Not all armor types have all mod classes, so you should check the wiki page for what's available. Go for whatever fits your style best, but better defensive stats is a good choice if you're undecided. Just like with weapons, armor legendary properties are divided into 3 tiers, but the choices are much clearer when it comes to armor. The first tier tends to give you bonuses to damage and energy resistance, or damage reduction against specific enemies, but there's 2 properties that stand out: Overeaters and Unyielding. If you play with power armor or full health, then Overeaters is the one you want. A full set of Overeaters armor will give you a 30% damage reduction. This is still multiplicative, but it's pretty powerful, and all you have to do is eat and drink, which is pretty easy. If you play with a low health style, then a full set of Unyielding armor will give you massive bonuses. We're looking at plus 15 to each attribute, except endurance, plus whatever your under armor gives you, as long as you keep your health at 20% or less. The second tier is attribute bonuses and resistances to damage. Generally the fire, cryo, and poison resistances are the ones to go for, but an underrated one is hardy, which reduces your damage from explosions by 35% for a full set. So just like the mods, it's good to have if you use explosive weapons. The third tier has a bunch of miscellaneous bonuses, but Sentinels and Cavaliers stand out. A full set will give you a 75% chance to reduce damage by 75%, which is actually pretty significant. Another good bonus is the weight reduction ones, very useful if you're a kleptomaniac like me. Just like with offensive bonuses, food and chems are good when you need that bit more defense. Once again, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list, more of a highlight of what's possible. Defensively, food generally helps you by giving you attribute and hit point bonuses. They won't directly help you avoid damage, but a bit more maximum health is useful. Chems are great for damage reduction though. Medics is found often enough that you shouldn't need to be too stingy with it. And again, Psycho products give you both defense and offensive bonuses. A good one to mention here is Vintage Maya Moonshine. It's an easily accessible drink that gives you 25% damage reduction. If you do Moonshine Jamboree, you get 5 guaranteed, and you can stack them with chems like medics, because they count as different classes of consumables. The reduction is again multiplicative, but they will make a noticeable difference. Generally speaking, you should only need to use consumables for particularly tough enemies. If you're relying on them for normal play, you should look at your armor and your perks and optimize them first. Your armor is the primary way to keep yourself safe. It's not a bad idea to try different styles to see which one you like, but they're all viable. It's more about what style you want to play. So far we've covered major factors that you should take into account when choosing your offensive and defensive gear. Next time we'll cover perk cards and which ones to use to complement your style and your gear. See you then. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.